I wanted to talk to you today about expectations. Yes, so I have been raised in a family with high expectations, which in many ways is very good. It gets you to be productive, more organized, all those wonderful things. But when you have children, children can be a little tough. And so I set up all these things for success for my children to get them out the door in the morning. They have 45 minutes to make their bed, get dressed, go do, make their lunch, make their breakfast, and we set it up as much as possible the night before. We have systems in place. We have things in place, right? I have a little bit of a dyslexia, ADHD, so systems and programs really, really work for me, and patterns. When I'm out of pattern, I get out of whack. So anyway, so I created a little checklist for them, and a little dry erase, and they can do that whole thing. And well, it didn't go according to plan this morning. And we even have a timer, so they have 15 minutes to do a certain, like 3 things in each 15-minute window. But then they had a fight this morning, and then someone got derailed, another person got hurt, emotionally, so we had to have hug time, and so forth. And life is about, adapting, and I have to adapt. Everyone has to adapt. It's really important to have that quality, because life will not throw at you what you expect. Some days it rains, sometimes it's sunny, and you're expecting rain, and you brought an umbrella, and now you have to carry something around. And of course, that's the small, easy version. But some people really get derailed, and sometimes I really get derailed because I go, there are things in place. There's systems, very simple, and they've been able to be successful other mornings. They get everything done in like 5-10 minutes, like the whole thing. Today was not one of those mornings. And so my expectations were not met, and I got derailed. And so I want to talk about how to work through our expectations and try and just move through them and shift our expectations. That maybe our job isn't what we expect, maybe our life isn't what we expect. The picture we painted in our heads when we were 10 and 16 years old, then 20 years old, it shifts. Life gives you curveballs, life gives you different opportunities that you didn't know were possible, etc. But what do we do when we don't have when our expectations aren't met? What happens? Well, sometimes we just have to adjust. Sometimes we have to say, well, are our expectations reasonable? Am I creating things to allow those expectations, or that desired state? Let's maybe shift it to, is that desired state, am I creating everything to make that happen? Am I getting distracted in my world? Am I, planning my work in my plan? And when you're not doing those things, and you're not staying to point, and you're staying in bed longer, and say you want to go work out in the morning at 7 a.m. and that's really nice, it's really cozy, it's really comfortable. I don't really need to go at 7 a.m. I don't really want to do that. Well, then you're not going to work out, and then you're not going to get to those goals that you want to do. And as a side note, of course, I don't think it's healthy to be so regimented either, to be able to, to have a world where everything is on point, such that, and when we are so rigid, when we have too many expectations and too many rules, well, then life doesn't really get very fun with that. And so there's that extreme, of course, of having rigid rules. Everything has to be the same, and so on and so on. And it works for some people. Except for when they get derailed, when life throws them a curveball. They might fritz inside and go, right? And freak out and have a hard time going, but that didn't beat my expectation. So that's an opportunity to sit down with yourself and go, well, can I adapt? Can I shift? Can I think that maybe this is offering me something better in the long run? Right? Sometimes maybe life is giving these opportunities to you to go, that's one way to do it, but maybe there's a better way. Maybe there's this opportunity. The word universe, I always look at patterns, right? And when I was little, I go, universe, one, verse, like a song. It's a chorus. It's everything is working together. There is no chaos. There is absolutely no chaos. And I will tell you, I think string theory and quantum theory and all this beautiful science and physics and so forth, they are telling you there is no chaos. There is action, reaction, there's intention. There are always reasons for things. There's always an action and a reaction, or a co-creation that's always happening. So trust in the universe. So if something is presenting to you that is not your expectation, what's in your head and what should be happening, take a step back. Get out of your ego, for one, and then just take that breath. But I say take that breath, right? Take that breath. Take a step back from you thinking necessarily for that moment that you're the center of the universe. Like you are the center of the universe, but not in the ego sense. But you are in the center of your universe as far as intention, as far as creation, as far as your boundaries and what you're letting in, and so forth. And so when our expectations aren't met, rather than butting heads like this and go, universe, shift it, make it better, that's not going to work. So we have to adjust. We have to go, well, what am I telling the universe? What am I doing with my boundaries or lack thereof? Am I in balance? Am I doing the things I need to do to make those desired states possible? And I'm not talking about the universe doing anything, am I? I'm talking about what am I doing here, inside. And that's where the magic is. I think I was looking at the history of society and how society tries to tell you who you are. Well, that's just projections of their own fears, projections of what they have learned works and so forth, and it might work very, very well. But it's not their job necessarily to tell you what you should be doing. Other than, of course, I think the don't hurt people, don't be mean, like some basics, just on a very basic level. But how are you going to create your universe? How are you meeting the day? How are you setting your intentions for the day? That's the magic. So don't worry about society. Don't worry about your spouse yelling at you or being frustrated, or anything else. You have to learn that it's okay to live your truth. You have to learn that despite your parents' teachings or what you learned or what you thought they were telling you when you were little and your reaction to try and survive those moments, ultimately you have to get to you. And you don't have to, but I find it works. This is what I teach with NLP, Family Soul Constellations, and Huna is getting the outside out there, and bringing it into here. This is where everything happens. And when you shift this, when you let go of those past belief systems and patterns and things that are automatically now set up in your system, when we tackle those and bring them to the light, and we look here and we go, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I believed that. I didn't realize that this is what I was telling myself. I didn't realize that what I did when I was 2 years old, when I did something wrong or whatever, that my solution was now creating my whole experience now. Because what you survive, you recreate. Over and over and over again. I think that's the motto of human beings. What you survive, you recreate. And in theory, in the beginning, that's wonderful, right? Touch a hot stove, You burn, you go, great, I'm not going to touch the stove anymore. Or I'm going to have a hot pad, or I'm going to find a new solution to deal with this situation. But we don't do that with our emotions. We don't do that with our relationships. And so all these quick nanosecond choices that we make when we're 2 years old, 3 years old, and they're tiny moments. I'm constantly surprised when I'm working with my clients that the mountain that has been created when we're 40 and 50 and we go, I don't know how I got here. In 60s and 70s, there's this one guy who he hid in the background in so many ways. He stopped himself from shining in music, in his relationships. He did not shine. And why? Because of a 2-minute episode when he was about 4 years old. And there was something that he got embarrassed about, and his dad laughed, and his sister laughed. And he got so embarrassed and so shy that pervaded his whole life because he didn't want to be laughed at. And when we looked at it and we fixed it all, and I go, well, can you step outside that experience for a moment and look at that and go, gosh, maybe your dad was kind of trying to laugh with you, and go, life is funny, kid. This is funny, but I'm not laughing at you. And of course, it would have been nice if his dad said that, but it happens. And so he lived his whole life for about 60 years, maybe even more, of not being comfortable with himself, always contorting his world so he would stay in the background, but resent those who were bright and shining and living their dreams. And so he was in conflict his whole life until we worked together. And it was done in one session. And it was amazing. And so now he's brighter, more productive. It's like his whole world has shifted. But it was that 2-minute moment of I'm going to decide. And it's all subconscious. But I'm going to decide that I am going to just hide back because I don't want to be laughed at. So, getting back into expectations. When we have life that doesn't meet our expectations, well, we need to look at that and go, how do I need to shift? What do I need to shift within myself? And how can I be better? And how can I adapt? How can I bend like that willow tree in the wind rather than breaking all the branches and stomping and getting all mad and, getting all mad? Well, we just take that breath. Like I said yesterday, we take that breath and we take another one through the nose. If you don't have a cold, through the nose and out the mouth, and do that a few times. That gets us out of the fight or flight, gets the other parts of the body online, gets our executive brain working. And then we can meet that moment with introspection, with more presence, and go, what have I been telling myself? Well, how and why? And what do I want to tell myself? And if there's a conflict and if you can't get to a resolution, well, then talk to me. I do NLP, I do family soul constellations, and I do HUNA. I help people find the root cause, not just necessarily in our mind, but in our spirits. What's still being held in your body? And I help people in a really, really beautiful way. And the client yesterday, he didn't really know what I did, but I told him some examples of some clients really shifting with a clearing, where I clear the energies from your body, entities, I reintegrate soul fragments and all of that. I get you back to the present, which maybe you haven't been in this life. Have we ever been fully present where we're not constantly thinking about the past? Have we been there where we're not constantly battling our old thoughts, our old behaviors, our old triggers, right? I think we all kind of on one level have PTSD, to be honest. I think that, but if you are not meeting the moment with calmness or with calm presence and being excited for what might come, then maybe you've got some triggers, maybe you have some things to work on. So I give 30-minute consults for free. So go to my website, livingyourawesome.com. I would love for you to chat with me, see how I can help you. This work is fairly new, if you will. I don't think anyone else has this combination that I have of NLP, family constellations, and Hawaiian spiritual-based healing. But I find it really complete because I help work with your spirit. I help work with your mind, your mental patterns, your conditioning, if you will. And I also work with family energies. You know, what's being held in the family that hasn't been dealt with before, that we're subconsciously grabbing onto. So if this sounds interesting, if it looks interesting to you, go to my website, livingyourawesome.com, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.